pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, everyone. Billy, could you do roll call, please?
Supervisor Hendrickson. Here. Supervisor Cole.
Here.
Supervisor Olson.
Here.
Supervisor Milliburn.
Here.
Supervisor Ledke.
Here.
Thank you.
Right, and the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the Anoka County Sheriff's Office contract for 2026. The reason why this is being discussed with three different options was with having to modify our proposed budget by 184,000. We had to look at all the different ways that we could possibly cut anything out. One of the tasks that we all went away with in our respected areas was to see if we could cut out at least 10% of the cost. Lisa and I met with the police in the spring. They worked hard to come up with three different pricing options for the board to consider. And that's what we have before us tonight. One of those was the normal coverage that we've been under in the past is the 8-hour coverage contract. And that one going into 2026 is proposed at 360,000 and some change. We had them look at two other options, which was the 8-hour coverage. But right now we have to pay extra for if the normal contract deputy is not here on vacation, sick time, those kind of things. We pay roughly $40,000 to have a backfill during those times that they're not available. So that's one option, is to still keep 8 hours of coverage, but just know that if they're on vacation, sick or whatever, we may not have a deputy for that night in the area. We'll be still covered under the normal county contract. The third option was a 6-hour coverage, and which would be the same terms as the original. So if the deputy wasn't going to be here, they would still have a backup. But we would just be cutting from 8 hours of coverage, 7 days a week, down to 6 hours of coverage. And pricing again was the 8-hour. The 8-hour was the 360, 227. The modified 8 hours would be 307, 162. And the 6-hour coverage would be 280, 660. So we had a workshop on this with the sheriff's office. We went through what this all means. And this tonight is going to be to have any further discussion on it, any questions, and debate which option the boards would be their pleasure for 2026. Any questions or comments? Yes, Supervisor Cole.
You mentioned that the covering the sick time and the vacation was a cost difference of 40,000. Was that I think it's 53,000.
Yeah, I was generalizing.
Okay.
Probably right.
Gotcha.
Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? Any suggestions? Board comfortable with?
I think we should not, I'm not in favor of keeping the contract as is. I'm not in favor of getting rid of the sheriffs. So either the no vacation sick time backfill or the 6-hour coverage is my preference.
All right, thank you. Sir, come on up.
Tony Duchesne, Typo Creek Drive, and I'll speak into my microphone. Are we paying taxes for the sheriffs right now? I mean, besides this contract,
Yes.
are we not paying taxes for them?
County taxes, yes.
Okay. So in my mind's eye, that's almost double dipping. Quite frankly, I think we were strong armed into this contract. Now then was, because they were the last holdout. And I don't understand why we got to pay double.
That was part of our discussion in our work session. And they have a minimum statutory coverage that they have to offer all municipalities. So this is above and beyond that. That's extra
Right.
coverage.
I understand that. If I can tell a little story. In 2000, we had a couple of miscreants that knocked over a place. They ended up over at the store. And one of them was going to try to walk out and blend in with the people, but he was not going to blend in very well. Our then deputy, Mike Thompson, took him into custody. The second one took across the woods behind Melvin's, behind my place, and they ended up catching him over at 227th. The point is, there were so many squad cars around when backup was called for help. I had two detectives that were in my yard, officers everywhere. So we got plenty of police protection. I don't know why we're paying a squad to go sit and watch traffic, of which we got to beg for our money off in those traffic tickets.
Sure.
But I'm baffled at this.
Yep. Oh, that's why we're reviewing all this stuff.
I
But,
understand that.
yeah,
And I hope something can be done to lower the price.
yeah. All right. Thank you, Tony. Yes, come on up.
Good evening, Mike Halliday. From when we used to deal with this before, and correct me if I'm wrong, statutorily, the only thing they were required to do is respond to 911. Is that correct?
Not 911. They'll still come out and do reports according to what they were saying. They'll come out if there's a burglary and do a report. There just won't be very much follow-up if any.
Exactly. That was part of one of the concerns that we had before, was if we eliminate, and I totally understand Tony's, perspective with it at all. The issue was when we've had these conversations before, obviously, maybe they're different than your more recent ones, was the sheriff's department we're not required to be here for sure unless it's 911. And for me, as a resident living in a remote area, that's scary to me. And I understand we have to look at ways to lower the costs in all of that, but at least having somewhat of that security of having somebody that's here within the township to respond if there is a burglary or a break-in or something like that is completely different if we're waiting for them to come from Ham Lake or anywhere west of us. Part of the situation with now then is they move to a city. Cities are required to provide police protection. Townships are not. So it truly is an option for us. But with all of the expenditures that this board has been going through and approving, I think this is money well spent. Again, even if we reduce the coverage somehow, but still have some coverage, because honestly, for me, it makes me really nervous once we're going to advertise that there's no regular police protection here. I think it's just opening the door to set us back. So thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Mike. All right. Any other comments? So I know we have a super tight budget for 26. It's a lot of money if we do the full 8-hour contract. I tend to agree with Supervisor Cole. I did some comparison with other counties in the area, and the prices that were being given are pretty significant as far as higher than what surrounding counties are. If you get into Washington County, they're a little bit higher. But I think that with our budget situation, to spend 360,000, I think it's gonna be really tough to justify in 26. I personally have a problem with the cost of the backups. I personally kind of lean towards still keeping the 8-hour coverage, but getting rid of the, 53,000 to pay for backup coverage. Randomly, we won't know, and neither will the citizens know when they're not on duty. So it's not like they can say, well, we know that we can have a free shot at the township on Friday. Because we won't know if they call in sick, we won't know that there's not backup coverage. So at this point, I lean towards the option of 8-hour of coverage, but getting rid of the backup situation. That would be my 2 cents. Anybody else?
I'm
Lisa?
torn between the going with 6 hours, and the minimum would have to be just the 53,000. I mean, that way, it's, it's only not, we have the patrol, usually the younger ones, so they don't have as much vacation time in that, so that's a plus there. But yeah, the minimum would be not covering the vacation and sick time.
All right. Supervisor Ludke, Milburn, any comments?
I was gonna just follow up. I think that's my issue with the 6-hour, if I remember correctly from the workshop, was that it was more staggered towards the less active hours. If I remember correctly, like they would kind of cut off during the peak hours.
For the 6-hour coverage? Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of their start time. Yeah.
And we asked if they could stagger it so it was later. They said no. That's probably my main concern with that one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Supervisor Ludke?
I'm all in favor of the discussion and trying to come up with plan moving forward. As I alluded to, a lot of this stuff comes into at the annual meeting, the discussions around this and when this budget is prepared versus when this data comes to us. And I'm not in favor of any reduction right now in terms of coming forth. I see firsthand kind of the impact that is made. And it's a good thing for quite a few town employees and the liability on residents that delayed services could be, and then the impact it has on emergency services overall, not having to be around.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Supervisor Milburn?
So I've been around here for 20 some odd years, and I know where this township used to be. I know what our police have done for this township to get it where it is now. I think that's extremely important to know that, you know what, they bust their butt and they do their thing for a lot of money. But there's this group of people on this board approved $1 million fire truck, not because of a need. It was because of a want. Because they already had the exact fire truck they just ordered. And we didn't blink an eye when we said yes to $1 million fire truck. On a $2 million budget, when we're gonna put any kind of safety of this community on hold for $50,000, we have a school in this community. We have churches in this community, and everybody here knows that you can't go to church now without looking over your shoulder 57 times because you don't know who's gonna walk in the door. Right now, I don't have any kids in the elementary school. There's people in this community who do have kids in this elementary school. And you gotta think every day what happens all over this country. It happens constantly. Why would we even think about dropping one of our biggest safety nets I mean, I know we're not dropping it. Why would we reduce one of our biggest safety nets that I think keep the township where it is, where it's going forward? I know a lot of people make comments, all they do is sit down on 22, or all they do is sit at the fire station or sit in the town hall. If you got people doing 100 miles an hour coming into the township and nobody cares how fast they're gonna drive on that road over there where Supervisor Ludke lives. If nobody cares when we come flying into the township, why would we care once we're in the township? It's 50 grand. If there's one person here who can say it's gonna affect your taxes by spending an extra $50,000, that's a flat out lie, because it's not gonna affect anybody's taxes by 0.001 to whatever the number is. I just don't think on a 2 million, you know what, we have way more things we can cut than public safety. And I've pushed that ever since I walked onto this board. I see what these guys do across the street. When I call 911 because my daughter got in a 4-wheeler accident, the sheriff beat the fire station here by 6 minutes. And I appreciate the sheriff getting there because they know what to do when my daughter's bleeding because she has a football-sized chunk out of her leg. I'm not gonna risk that for my kids, my grandkids, anybody's kids in this township. I don't think it's worth 50 grand to even question it. If you think about overtime and holiday, every single one of us who go to work, we get paid for overtime and holidays. When I take time off work, my company still pays me, and they still charge our client for Bob to go on vacation for 2 weeks a year. You go to Target, you spend $9 on a roll of socks. We're paying for somebody to go on vacation at Target too. I don't think, we all deserve vacation. We all deserve time off. For Bob, I don't think it's worth worrying about not paying somebody's vacation or getting another officer to step up and protect the community we're in. My 2 cents.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Supervisor Cole?
I definitely agree with a lot of what Bob said. But on the other hand, I mean, I've got 3 kids in the township myself, very small kids. And moving to the township, very fast emergency response times is not something that I was expecting to have in a township. And it's a good thing that we do have it, but it wasn't an expectation for me. I think when we're talking about the 53,000, we're talking about, so for 16 hours of the day, response time is the same as if we had no contract. It's only for 8 hours a day. And so we're talking about for 3-ish weeks of the year intermittently, for that 8-hour chunk of the day, that response time is the same as it would be for the other 16 hours. And so I think the real question here is like, is that worth $53,000? And to Bob's point about the taxes, I agree with what Bob's saying about the taxes. You know, that's not gonna make a dent, but the problem is that the annual meeting where that decision was made by the townspeople is passed, and they made that decision to cut significantly. So I guess it's an open question. I didn't think about this too much, but is this going to make or break our 2026 budget? Probably not. But what's going to get cut instead is probably something to consider, and whether that's worth that 8-hour period for 3 weeks of the year, I think is something to consider.
Thank you. Very well put. Yeah, and I think it's noteworthy that right now, only 1/3 of a 24-hour day is being covered by the police. 16 hours is not. We only have 8 hours of coverage during a specific time. So anything outside of that is their normal response. The other thing that the chief deputy had explained was that by having any contract with the sheriff's office, that their response time would be quicker, even if it's outside of duty hours, our contract hours. And the follow-up would be there because that's some of the benefits of having any level of contract. So I don't think that our response time is going to be that drastically different myself. The other thing is, and I think Supervisor Ludke kind of started to allude to it, is 2 things. One is, at the last annual meeting, I heard people saying, they don't want to short on police coverage, but I also heard at least as many people saying, why are we paying that kind of money for police coverage? So I think that it behooves this board to make sure that at the annual meeting that police coverage is something that we have a discussion with the people so that we get a larger group of people, their feedback to help us make a decision in 27. Because in 27, we're looking at a possible give or take 5% increase over what we're paying right into 26. So it's going to become a bigger problem. And then again, to add on to Supervisor Ludke's comment is, you know, this last annual meeting, we asked the people to allow us to recess that annual meeting so that we could come back in September to finish it. And this is, I think, a good example of why it's important to do that, because we didn't have their rates. We didn't have their increases. We had no idea what the final number was going to be until after our annual meeting. Cities don't have to make their decisions until December. So we don't see this stuff until we get into August and September timeframe. So I think this is going to warrant a little bit more discussion and explanation to the people at the annual meeting. And then, so this to me is to get us through 1 year. Let's listen to what the people say in March at our annual meeting, and then we can maybe fine tune this going into the 27 budget. Anything else? All right. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but if we're going to take some board action here, I am going to make a motion that we contract with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office for 2026 with the option of 8 hours of coverage without the backup for sick time and vacation. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion passes 3-2. All right. Anything else on this topic? All right, then we can entertain a motion to adjourn the special meeting.
Are you
Oh,
gonna
wait,
do the
wait, wait.
upcoming?
I'll hit that real quick. So upcoming meetings, regular town board meeting, November 12th. It's a Wednesday, not a Tuesday. 6:30 right here. Town board workshop is also November 12th, just before the meeting at 5:30. Road and bridge meeting was moved from the first Tuesday in November to the November 18th at 7 p.m. And the parks meeting is November 24th at 6 p.m. Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, Miller, Byrne, and Ludke. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 7:24. Thank you.